I'll give you the official title. The Crusader is the student-run newspaper of Susquehanna University.
It is a university publication that tries to get out the events going on in the school to the students and allow them to see what's going on and kind of get their opinion voiced.
It's kind of a catalog, a weekly catalog of events upcoming or in the past, including activities, innovations, sports, opinions.
It contains news, living and arts, feature articles, news articles.
And it also covers things outside of campus, things that are going on in the world that affects us. So pretty much it's, I'd say, like a log of things that may matter or be of some sort of concern to Susquehanna students.
With a circulation of about 2,500, the Crusader reaches every corner of the Susquehanna campus. But what most of the readers don't know is the process and the people that go into producing an issue every week. It all begins with the weekly meeting of the editorial board.
Ed board is 4:30 p.m. on Tuesdays, and as its title says, every part of the editorial board is supposed to be there. The first thing I usually do is to bring up any outstanding business we have, issues, problems, concerns, anything that Kate has told me in my meeting with her. Once that's out of the way, we go into changes for that week's issue. Starting with news, the news editor will go over the changes she's made since the previous editorial board. And then L&A is next, followed by forum, which is usually unpredictable because that's just the way forum works. You know, she has to pick the forum articles from a pool that she has usually each week. And if she writes something, it's usually done the day or two in advance, and I do the same, so it's unpredictable. And then sports is last, but that's assuming the sports editor is there. This year, Sarah plays volleyball, so she's never at Ed board. Almost never. She's been there a couple times. Also at Ed board, in between the changes and the next segment, which is the issues or the story ideas for that week, we do staff member of the week. Everybody gets a copy of that week's or the previous week's issue, and each section nominates someone who they feel has done an outstanding job, or if there's no one who's done an outstanding job, just someone who's done the job. And then we take a democratic vote and elect a staff member of the week who gets a slip for a free pizza from Selinsgrove Sub Shop. It's a really prestigious award, I know. So once that's over, we go to story ideas for that week, the week of the meeting, and same order, news, L&A, forum, and sports. And when that's over, unless there's somebody who's thought of something they want to bring up, that's the end of Ed board.
The stories discussed at the Ed board meeting then need to be assigned to writers, which happens at the weekly general staff meeting.
Staff meeting, we pretty much just break it down into section, and the writers come in and see like who they want to write for, and we just give them the story assignments, kind of explain their contacts, like who to go to, and just give them their deadlines for the following week.
But as any editor could tell you, assigning a story doesn't always mean that it gets done.
What drives me nuts the most is when people don't do their job. Especially as a staff writer, your job obviously is to write. And when you take a story and you don't write it, it's one thing if you let us know that you can't, but it's a complete another thing if you don't tell us at all, or if you tell us on Wednesday as we're pasting the page up that, oh yeah, I can't get that story to you. That gets on my nerves.
Essentially what annoys me sometimes about the writers would be that they submit, 5-inch stories. I mean, what's that? That's a news and brief, There's no point in even making a box for that on the page. The headline's going to be bigger than the story.
Writers who can't write is frustrating, and I get a lot of that on my page because it's kind of like the editorials, anyone can write in. You can write in a letter to the editor, but we still have to make it coherent and understandable and somewhat logical and AP style, and that can be really challenging, especially when you're dealing with people who aren't necessarily writing majors or English majors or journalism majors at all.
It absolutely drives me nuts that we never have writers. We have about 2 kids who will write for us, and I constantly have to write stories, which I don't mind, but I think that if people want to be on the Crusader, even if they're a journalism major, you would think that they would want to come out and write, and I know a lot of kids don't. So it drives me nuts when we never have writers any week.
I had this one girl at the beginning of the semester who, I can't even describe it. Like, she would write everything in the first person, and after I explained to her, like, I tried to explain to people without sounding like a horrible bitch, and like, but she would write in the first person. She would like use exclamation points and like just write stuff that didn't make any sense at all. And I asked her one time if she had an AP style book, and she said, no, I use MLA. And I almost like died right there, because everything for the Crusader has to be in Associated Press style.
Another problem that the editors face is the perception that the paper has a liberal slant, particularly this year.
See a heavy bias in the paper.
What do you think is the cause of that?
I think just people running. Everybody's heated up in the political season, obviously, and they want to get their shots in, and they're obviously in a position of power, so they take advantage of it.
I guess there's a little bit more liberal this year, but, you know, if you're a Republican and you have something to say, write it to me.
I think that you come to a liberal arts to expand your horizons and be liberal. And I just don't understand, like, why they would want the paper to favor them when we're a liberal arts. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's why I came here.
I know of 8 people or 8 articles that were sent in. I think one of them was published that was conservative.
It's basically just what I get that that ends up on the page. There aren't stories. I mean, I do hold stories occasionally because of space reasons, but for the most part I print exactly what I get. So what you see is what the students are writing. Either the Republicans are abroad or they're not as motivated this semester.
Of note in this issue was the Forum cartoon, which says that if you want your voice to be heard, you have to write. Funny how the liberal students figured that out on their own.
And I looked at it, and I was furious, I'm not going to lie. I mean, that's like Theta Chi taking a shot at Phi Mu Delta, putting something in there like that. I mean, how can one group go bash another group on campus? You're not going to have Big Brothers Big Sisters bashing like Circle K or anything like that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Perhaps the cartoon was a little slanted. I mean, obviously it was slanted. Maybe it was a little unfair, but the point of it, the essence of the cartoon, I agree with, and that's that the majority of the content we've gotten this year, from letters to the editor, people writing in, from even staff writers, has been more liberal, and the conservatives haven't been writing as much, have been barely writing at all. A couple more in recent weeks. Once we ran a few liberal pieces. We had an issue that was almost totally liberal a few weeks ago. So if the only people writing in and the only people writing for us are liberal, more liberal-minded, then we're going to have a liberal slant, because you know, it only makes sense. If you don't have conservative material to run, you can't run it.
Deciding where each of the stories will go and how many pages the paper will be is done at the Wednesday night budget meeting.
The budget meeting is a meeting we have every Wednesday, about 5 or 5:30, and all the editors get together and we decide what stories we have and how long they are. And I guess it's called a budget because pretty much we're budgeting out the paper and allocating spots to certain stories.
I don't know. We got a lot of letters to the editor that I don't think she knew about, so I was just wondering
What about
where she was.
how's sports? Do you know?
Sports?
Just because I'm probably going to have to put ads on their page 5.
I don't know about sports. I haven't looked on the end drive. The volleyball story might not be done. Football is definitely not done. And I'm crossing my fingers that that will even be done. So.
Just want a blank page. There's some stuff that happened with sports. And we won, we lost.
We'll have one big story
Yeah.
with a picture.
Do I get ads?
No, I'm going to try and keep ads away because you have a lot of stories. And a lot of art.
Yeah, but last week, no
Did
art.
you get ads? Oh, there's no art.
No art. Well, the standalone.
Yeah. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
But 8 pages is definitely out of the question because there isn't enough news, right?
We'll just go 6. I mean, if we have to hold some good stuff. Yeah.
Probably less headaches.
Spending 2 long nights together each week creates a special bond among the Crusader staff.
I like how the Crusader is a big family. I feel like the staff really understand each other's frustrations, the challenges of being on the staff, especially the exec board. I think we are the only ones that completely appreciate the paper, as sad as that is. I don't think the people on the outside really understand what goes on, knows how much, I don't think they know how much time we dedicate to the paper and how much effort goes into it.
I'd like to say we're like a family, but that's kind of cliche. But, you know, we don't necessarily hang out outside of the Crusader, but you know you can rely on these people. And it's like doing a big group project every week, except you're doing it with your friends and you're doing it with people you know you can rely on.
I love everybody that's on the staff. It's a nice family kind of to go to. I look forward to it as much as everybody thinks I'm crazy to go there for 7 hours a night sometimes. I love going to it. I think everyone gets along, and even if we don't have as many readers as we might like, I think it's still a good paper.
I love the people. I really love the atmosphere of the office. Everyone's so fun to work with. You know, the people in the office now, some people I don't know, granted, because they're sophomores or they're juniors in their freshman year, they weren't involved with the paper, and I was away last year. So some of the people I'm just starting to know. But you know, people like John, I've worked with him since almost day one. I mean, freshman year, we've known each other since freshman year, so that's really, it's really nice just to have that kind of community, to have that sort of, you know, the people in your office are your friends, and it's just great to be able to put out a product with them because, you know, you're all just students, everyone's just learning, and really to kind of bond together and create the product every week that we create, which is a pretty darn good paper if I say so myself.
After the budget meeting, the forum and living and arts sections spend the entire night putting their pages together.
The Wednesday night layout process is interesting. For me, it begins with copy editing all the stories, which I have printed out. Then Blair and I, my assistant, we make corrections in the computer and save them to discs. And then once Michelle has our page all laid out for us, we enter the text, and then we write headlines and enter photos and write cut lines and overlines for photos and standalones.
And basically adjust the page according to what fits where, figure out what might need cut down in order to fit everything on the page correctly. Then we write the headlines, drop in the cartoons and the bylines.
And after we do that, usually takes an hour to 2 hours, depending on how quick we are that night. We print out what's called a 65, and that is pretty much just a miniature version of the page. It's itty-bitty, you almost need a magnifying glass to see it. And John Fogg and Amanda Staub both look at it and make any additional corrections. And then Blair and I go through and make all the final corrections in the computer, God willing, if the page is still there. And then we save it once again, and sometimes we print out the actual page that they paste up and line up the text.
And then it's finally done. Oh, and then we do paste up.
Wow.
So
other people do paste up.
Yeah, well, I watch them, so.